and there are. Now, in terms of the agenda, first we'll look at an overview of the problem. We'll look at the required change, steps that are planned for the change, teams involved in the change process, sequenced implementation of the new technology, and then I'll open the floor to the questions. Now, this presentation that I'm doing includes two different presentations. The first presentation would be for managers at Springfield General Hospital, and the second presentation is tailored to employees of Springfield General Hospital. Now, the overview of the problem is the same, so I will just do it once, and then I will get into the presentation, the specifics of the presentations regarding each groups. So first we'll look at the overview of the problem, which again is the same regardless of if it's managers or employees. So overview of the problem. Springfield General Hospital realized that they had a lot of errors in drugs prescription and administration, and the most common type of error was illegible handwriting on prescription medication. And what this means is they could not read the prescription medications, and there was a lot of error in terms of which medication was written, and that led to a lot of complications. Now, to be more specific, Springfield General Hospital faced errors in prescription drugs, confusion over similar drug names. There was failure to determine the effect of multiple drugs on patients. There was also a failure to account for patient allergies. Now, the consequence of those problems is that it caused harm, and in general, there's a lot of errors in hospitals in the US, and that leads to harms and kills more than 770,000 patients annually in US hospitals. It also adds several $100 billion a year in health costs. So as we can see, this is not only on a human side, it is a huge problem, but it's also a huge problem in terms of finances. Now, the presentation to managers. The overview of the problem is the same regardless of managers or employees, but the presentation has to be tailored when it's for managers. The agenda for managers is we'll first look at the required change, we'll look at the steps planned for the change, the teams involved in the change process, the sequenced implementation of the new technology, and I'll open the floor to managers. So, in terms of the solution to improve the handwriting identification, the solution that we propose is to use CPOE, which is a computerized physician order entry. The information would be entered in a computer, making it very easily readable. It would no longer be on handwriting, so it would be easier for the treatment staff to be able to read it. The information also would be available to treatment and pharmacy staff, so it would be the same information across the board. The system would also allow the staff to catch incorrect dosages, to avoid duplicating requests. The system would take into account patients' allergies and any adverse impact that multiple drugs can have on the patient's health. Important as well is that the system CPOE would allow to display patients' medical history and clinical guidelines for treatment. Why do we think CPOE is important? There's been ample evidence that CPOE works and that it can reduce errors and costs. In terms of the steps to plan for the change, the step one would be to vet the system. And for that, I would recommend that the managers I would recommend that management create a test group composed of physicians, pharmacy staff, and treatment staff that will use the system for at least 3 months. While the test group is using the system, it will be important to appoint an administrator. The administrator would train the test group on how to use the system, follow up and organize interviews to collect feedback on the system. The administrator would also identify changes that needs to be made on the system and pass the required changes to CPOE. That would allow the IT team of CPOE to implement changes into the system to make sure that the system is tailored to the need of Springfield General Hospital. Step 2 would be to implement the system hospital-wide. First, it will be important to train all staff on how to input, modify, and extract information from the system. It would be important to appoint champions of change, and those would be individuals that really are willing to embrace the change, will support and motivate other employees by their actions, and also by being a point of contact for employees when they have any questions. Then it would also be important to reinforce to employees that the system is there to support the staff and not do the job for the staff. Even though we have a system, the system is only as good as the information that is entered in the system. And the information entered in the system is based on the knowledge of the staff and the knowledge of the physicians. And that is the value added. So it's very important that as management we reinforce to the employees that the system is just there to support their day-to-day activities. The system is not there to replace their knowledge. So in order to make sure that there will be accuracy in the information, it's important that we have a two-step verification process. So any changes that will be made to the dosages or medications should be validated by both the physician and the treatment staff. So the physicians would bring in the knowledge, recommending what dosages should be given, and to like patient A. The treatment staff would get a notification that the doses are changed for this patient, and they would ensure that the physicians actually meant to change the dosage for patient A, and that there was no mistake, and that there's no mistake on patient A's file in terms of the addresses, the name. Then it would also be important for management to organize a 10-minute town hall meetings. And really, the goal here is to keep employees informed and gather feedback. And it would also be we would also recommend that management add a bonus to reward employees with the lowest error rate. Now, the teams that will be involved in the change process, it will be the managers, so it will be the managers, so yourself. Since you'll oversee the implementation, and since you'll oversee the implementation process, you'll have to appoint the administrator. You also have to appoint the change champions and like organize the town halls, take up any questions, answer any concern, and provide constant feedback to employees on how the system is going. Teams involved will also include the physicians, the pharmacy, and the treatment staff, since they will be using the system. The administrator of change, since he will oversee the test group and vetting the system. The IT developers at CPOE are also involved, since they will modify the system and respond to the need of the hospital. Now I would like to thank management for their time, and if they have any questions, I will open the floor. Now that we're done with the presentations to management, we would now look at the presentation to employees of Springfield General Hospital. Now, the agenda for employees would also include an overview of the problem, which we've discussed earlier. It includes the required change, the steps planned for the change, the sequenced implementation of the new technology, and also opening the floor to questions and any concern that the employees may have. So solutions to improve the handwriting identification, which is the problem. Um, the solutions that um, the solutions that was decided upon is to use a computerized physician order entry, CPOE. The reason why now I'm going to take on the role of management, and I'm going to assume I'm speaking with employees. So the reason why we as management decided to choose CPOE is because CPOE allows for the information entered to be in a computer. That would make it easier for you employees to be able to read it. You will no longer have to guess what is written on the paper. The information would also be available to not only the treatment staff but also the pharmacy staff. The system would also allow you to catch any incorrect dosages, duplicate requests, patients' allergies, and adverse impact of multiple drugs. The system would also display patients' medical history, clinical guidelines for treatment. So in a sense, really, the system is there to support you in your day-to-day activities. And if you notice, the system that is only going to be as good as the information that is entered. And we as management rely on employees' knowledge and expertise to ensure that the information entered in the system is as accurate as possible. And again, you employees are our best assets, and this system is not there to replace your knowledge or your expertise. Truly, the system is there to support you in doing your job better and helping you avoid as many errors as possible. Why did we choose CPOE? We chose CPOEs because it's user friendly. It's gonna assist you, our employees, in your day-to-day activities. It's gonna simplify your task and reduce errors. And we also saw ample evidence that CPOE can reduce errors and cost overall in different hospitals. Now the steps for the change. How do we as management intend for the change to take place? Step one would be vetting the system. We will create a test group that will use the system for at least 3 months. We'll appoint an administrator to gather feedback and ensure that the changes are made to the system to resolve any issues. The test group will be randomly chosen. The participant in the test group will be randomly chosen. So there would not be any preferential treatment or anything. It would really be a random draw in terms of who gets to test the new system for the next 3 months. Why? We want to ensure that we provide you with a top-notch system. We do not want to start implementing a system that is flawed. We don't want to use a system that would increase the error rate. We want to make sure that whatever system we're giving you is the best system possible. But again, there's always going to be changes that will need to be made. We're ready for that, and we hope that you will be willing to work with us as well to improve the system, as we know that there's always room for improvement. We also want to make sure that this new system works and that we can actually help you in your day-to-day activities. We value our employees' feedback and recognize that you are the ones that will use the system, so you should be the ones vetting the system. Step 2 of the change, it would be implementing the CPOE hospital-wide. So for that to be done successfully, we will provide training to all employees. Each department will have a change champion to whom questions or concerns can be directed. We'll also have a feedback box that will be available in all departments and staffs, and you can leave feedback there anytime. We know that some of you work day shift, night shift. Sometimes you can have problem occurring at like 1 a.m. in the morning. By the time, if you have to come back tomorrow to speak to a change champion or to supervisor to let them know of the error, you may have forgotten already. So just to make sure that you have a way to provide us with feedback at any time. We're going to have feedback boxes in each department, and you can just write down the feedback or the error that you notice, or concerns that you have at any time during your shifts. And we will take up the concerns, and we will take them into account, and we'll also address any questions that you may have. Now, in order to be able to address any concerns and for everybody to be able to benefit from that, we as managers will organize 10 minutes town halls every week to answer any questions or address any feedbacks received. Employees also with the lowest error rate will be rewarded. Now we want to ensure that, now why did we decide for CPOE? And we want to make sure that CPOE has these things, and we felt it was important for us to share the critical element that CPOE will have, so that you are as excited about the product as we are. We will make sure that CPOE, the dosages that are shown are based on clinical guidelines. We'll make sure that the interface is user-friendly, the information is easily accessible and readable. We'll make sure that CPOE facilitates ordering, modification, and cancellation of medications. We'll make sure that patient names will appear on all pages, so that that would reduce the risk of mistaking client files. We'll also make sure that physicians and pharmacists would be required. So instead of having a long list of alphabetical names, you will have to search for the client, and in order to find a patient, you'll have to enter two information: the client's last name and social insurance number. So that would ensure that the client that is looked up is actually the clients that you intend to look at. And really, this is not to make the process more complicated. It's just to make sure that we're not picking up clients with similar last names or clients that are living at the similar address. Now, patients' names will be grouped by house staff and by rooms. That would make it easier for the treatment staff. We would also like to have, we will also be implementing a two-step validation process. Any changes made to dosages or medication will be validated by both a physician and the treatment staff. And every time there's a change that's made, the treatment staff will get a notification to let them know that a change has been made on one of the patients from whom they care for. At this point, I would like to thank all of our employees for attending this meeting. I hope you are as excited as we management are excited about this new change. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to listen to them and provide any answers that you may have, and provide any answers. Thank you again for your time, and I'm opening now the floor to any questions.